purpose of incarnation is for us to progress, is for us to learn new experiences and to evolve.
We come to the physical body, we grow, we die, and then we come back again in a new life after we lose this physical body.
Reincarnation, the re means again. So we are incarnating again. So that's a principle that is related to multiple lives, multiple incarnations. Reincarnation is a concept that is accepted by different cultures, by different, even other religions. But it's basically in Spiritism that we have the reason for reincarnation. So reincarnation has a purpose, has a reason, has an objective. And the main objective of reincarnation is the evolvement of the spirit.
But if we agree with the idea of reincarnation, to re-enter the body again, we naturally accept the idea that we have previous experiences. Some of these experiences, not necessarily, they were the best ones, the great ones that we had.
Commit mistakes. We miss the target many times. And so the reincarnation is the opportunity that God gives us to come back and to resume our learning trajectory, our learning experience, our journey towards enlightenment. So if I broke a piece of something, I need to actually go back and glue those pieces together. So once I realized that breaking that object was a mistake, and I say I do not wish to break that anymore, and I go there and I put the pieces back together, I reestablish harmony in my life.
In simple terms, for us to understand, it is as if a child who goes to school, and every day we go to school, that child goes to school, and we go to school, we learn, we come back dirty because the garment is all dirty and we have to wash ourselves, we have to lose that garment, and then the next day we go back to school to learn again.
No one can learn everything in the lifespan of 60, 70, 80 years in terms of all the possibilities, intellectual and moral possibilities. And not only that we cannot learn, but in the learning process, we commit many mistakes. So it's necessary for us to repair, to make amendments.
The spirit needs that experience in the human body to evolve. And if you think, why is that? Why can I not evolve in the spirit world? Well, it is here that we feel pain, we feel difficulties, you have to bear with other people face to face, and that's where we can dominate our bad instincts and develop good moral values.
Each one of us will have a different number of lifetimes. It's not the same from one spirit to the other. And there is no limits for the number of lives that you can have.
We all make different choices in life. Even in our daily lives, we make different choices. And our choice is what's going to make our journey longer or shorter.
Now, the faster you make progress, the faster you learn, then it means that probably you will need less times to return to the school, because you are here as long as there are certain things that you need to learn. Once the learning is done, then you can, to a certain level, then you actually can evolve to more advanced worlds until a point where the spirit no longer needs the experiences that come with the reincarnation process.
One of the other aspects, one of the other teachings that we learn with Spiritism as well is the forgetfulness of the past. And it's a blessing of God, because if we were to remember everything, I think we would go crazy.
There's a logic to it. If we are evolving, we think if we're evolving, I am better now than I was before, or at least the same. So if I'm better in the past, there's nothing so good that I have done. So it's better to forget.
Let us say that we have an individual have killed someone in the past, and in that past reincarnation, that person did not have the opportunity to make amendments to that situation, perhaps with the person who was killed. In this reincarnation, the person may be given, the new reincarnation, the person may be given the opportunity to atone, to do the right things with that individual. And perhaps remembering what has happened, it would not be so helpful, because as that individual comes in contact with the victim, they would feel ashamed. They may block even the process of readdressing the situation, re-educating themselves.
Remembering doesn't, first of all, doesn't help us. And second, even if we remembered, we have to be aware that if we remembered, if we were able to remember the past, we would remember good things and bad things too.
So whatever you have achieved in this lifetime in terms of knowledge and virtues, it's yours. You're not going to lose it. It's going to stay with you.
We carry this information with us, not necessarily all the personalities that we have acquired, that we have learned, the different names, the different capabilities that we acquire will come full force when we reincarnate in a new life. A lot of information, a lot of the knowledge that we received may stay latent for a time, because this spirit who is reincarnating chooses to learn something new.
Because a lot of times people think, well, speak about myself, right? So I love sports and I love teaching, and so am I going to be someone who's going to love to teach in the next lifetime? What if I'm born in a country and I don't have access to education? So this entire trait of my personality, this entire achievement will be aside for that lifetime, because life itself is not giving me the circumstances to manifest and to express. It's not lost, but it's not there momentarily.
That's, again, a blessing from God, that we are giving infinite opportunities to learn in every way, to learn as a woman, as a man, being born in one culture or another, being in a profession of power, or a profession where, a situation where we are servants. We need every experience. The more experience, the better.
It would be absurd for us to learn everything that there is to be learned here on earth. We understand, we learn with Spiritism that earth as well serves as a home for all of us. And yes, we may have many reincarnations on earth. We may have internships perhaps in other spheres as well, and may even come back. As if we were to go to a different country, learn something, and bring back to your former country.
There are many houses, many planets who are inhabited, and so we can reincarnate. Reincarnation does not have to be only on this planet. Planets have different levels of evolution, just like we have different levels of evolution. So let's say in my stage of evolution, I'm right now incarnated here, and I will definitely reincarnate because I'm extremely far from any signs of perfection, so I need to return. And I may return here very well for many lives to come, or I may reincarnate in a planet that is actually similar to our own planet, and that would grant me like similar types of experiences.
The idea that a child is less evolved than someone that is reincarnated here on Earth for many, many years is not what we would like to say very reasonable. Because when we agree on the idea of reincarnation having many lives, as we have said, we also agree that we have had lives before this one that we reincarnated.
When we have the death of, which is the topic over there, the death of a child, is very difficult for us. And because of course, you think it's just the beginning of a life, right? So many possibilities, and plus it's very tough. And often parents and society question God's justice. In this case, is why? Why would a child who has not done any harm be suffering so much? So first of all, the spirit did no harm in this lifetime, but we don't know what the spirit has done in a past lifetime. Second of all, God is always just and fair. And so a lot of times that very short span or the disease or whatever happened is, for our eyes, something very painful, but for the spirit, a lot of times it means freedom, and it means more than that, it means healing.
So when we take the perspective of a learning process, an ability to come and make amendments with the past, we assume that perhaps that child who have lost their lives or lost its life very young, perhaps it's just a continuation of a life that was seized very prematurely in the past.
Certainly is a trial for the parents who many times asks to undergo that trial. Sometimes the parents are spirits who decided to receive that child in order to give support to the spirit who is undergoing the trial of having a short lifespan. So there's many different reasons for why a child might die at a very early age.
If the child dies, the spirit is a spirit. It goes back to the spirit world after the time of readjusting in the spirit world. That spirit will recognize its own stage of evolvement and will no longer, for some time, they retain the memories of a child, but sooner or later it will come back to realize the stage of what that spirit is.
But the important thing when looking at this issue is to remember that it's a mortal spirit, and it's not the little angel necessarily, but it is a spirit in a trajectory, and the certainty that God is always just and love.
The spirit retains its individuality from the point when they were created to eternity. So we are the same spirit through our journey. We acquire different experiences. That's why we need to reincarnate as a man in one experience, as a woman in another experience. We need to feel, both ways, or many ways.
We incarnate, we take a body, and the gender usually is associated with the biological expression in that body. But spirits do not have sex, as we understand. That's what the spirits tell us. They are attracted by affinity, by sympathy, not necessarily by gender, because gender is the physical body.
But we look at it under the perception of analyzing male and female in its attributes nowadays. It's very beautiful. We see the male of 2016 as the very strong, the force that the male can bring. On the other side, we'll look at a female where it's tender, it's kindness, and all these things that we like to attribute to the genders. When we analyze reincarnation, and for a lot of people this is very scary, we have to learn both, because Jesus, the beautiful example of love that God has given us, he was able to do both. He was a very strong when he had to be strong, and very courageous, but also he was love and kind to the utmost example that we can actually refer to on planet Earth. So how can we get to this point? How can we learn both? There's only one way. When we are given the opportunity, or perhaps when we get to a certain position in life, in this evolutionary path, to choose, I would like to reincarnate as a male, and I would like to reincarnate as a female.
A spirit that animated a man goes back to the spirit world, still retains the memories of the last incarnation for quite some time, or as much as needed. But then this same spirit has memories of other incarnations when that spirit incarnated as a woman. So now all this becomes part of their memory, of their knowledge, of their body of knowledge, of their body of experience. And they do not have a gender. So there's no specific gender for the spirit.
So for the spirit, it really doesn't matter. It really depends on the type of experiences that spirit needs to undergo in that lifetime. And this is a very, very interesting topic for us to think about, because the spirit book was written in the 1800s, right? So if you think about it, the role of men and women in the 1800s was one. The role of men and women today is a completely different one, right? What we see with evolution is that these roles are converging. Sometimes people ask, why was Jesus a man, right? Why did Jesus and not a woman? Because if Jesus was a woman, he wouldn't be able to speak in public. That's the reason why, right? So how would he preach and teach if he couldn't speak in public? So there was a role at the time. Women could not speak in public without the permission of their husbands. So it's just interesting, it's just curious to think about it, because even to that answer that was given by the spirits in the 1800s, there is an evolution of what it meant back then and what it means today. The spirit is the same. The spirit will influence in the formation of the body. So some of the traits, sometimes the look, the eyes are the windows of the soul. So that look, those eyes, that expression can be similar to a previous life, because it is the same soul, it's the same manifestation of the soul that you see coming through those eyes.
The body is the body that gives rise to another physical body. So that's where the DNA can, the genetics of the parents are transmitted to the child.
One of the things that we learn with Spiritism is that the body comes from the body. The soul doesn't come from the soul. In other words, that my soul is not part of the soul of my father. A soul of a child is not part of the soul of the parents or anybody else. That soul is an evolutionary being that is learning through the different processes of life.
That would be nice, right? If you have a very evolved parent that would just give in the genes all their achievements to you. What the parents do is they give the material for the formation of the material body. But as far as the moral principles, it doesn't go on in the genes. It would be nice, but it doesn't. And so now the parents have a very important role in the education, in the formation of the spirit. So in that way, they can definitely influence their children, and it's actually their mission to do so.
and sometimes it's the reverse. The parents, the child will be an example for the parents. The child will actually help the parents to be guided. So in certain ways, it's not only our needs, but sometimes we ask, I would like, I need, or I want to work with this family.
This idea of filiations that we have, father, son, mother, daughter, or vice versa, whichever way we want to, cousins, brothers. In the spirit world, we may see, or we may perceive, or we may regard someone as a father, as a mother, as a brother or sister, but not necessarily that is something that we have in the spirit world.
The groups of spirits that keep reincarnating together, and they are they invited to this very close relationship to learn to love. So when we are born in a particular family, it's never a random act. There's always a program. And within the family context, you're going to find spirits who have very, very high levels of affinity. So maybe it's a couple who has been a couple for many lifetimes, and perhaps a child was an enemy from previous lives.
By incarnating in different families, in different groups, we are expanding our love, our bonds. That's part of the law of society that God designed, that as we incarnate in different families, we are expanding.
Once we build a connection, once we are in a group of spirits in a family, there is connection, there is some love, and that remains throughout. You know, once love is built, you never lose that. There's a passage in the gospel that I like very much that talks also about this, about reincarnation and family ties, because the gospel also brings peace on that. And it says that when the spirits love one another and when there is connection between the spirits, there is no time and there is no space between them. And no matter how big the universe is, they look for each other, they seek each other, and they always find each other, because that's what love does. That's the power of love.